Okay, damage roll passive. Can you guys see this? Debuff duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. Healing reduction. Wow. Okay, so they increased the strength of the heal nerf. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm kind of indifferent. I don't think this is going to cripple anybody. The tank reduction is still applied to 10%, right? Is that correct? So it is half. It is a half. Okay. Okay. So sure. This hurts pocketed DPS characters a great deal. 25%, 3 seconds. I think the duration is probably a little bit more significant, but sure, whatever. This is a 25% increase in the healing reduction. This isn't going to be massive, but yes. Hit scan radius large reduced from 0.8 to 0.07. So hit scan is slightly weaker with larger projectile sizes. Yeah, so all of the hit scan, all projectiles are smaller. So everything's harder to hit, right? So I feel like there's so much happening right now. We've increased the potency of the damage roll passive to make the threat of sustained damage more meaningful by slowing down health recovery while in combat. At the same time, we're slightly decreasing how reliable hit scan and large travel time projectiles are to hit. Yeah, so you need to go and you need to go and find out like the list of characters affected by this. But this is a significant change, for sure. I wouldn't mind this. I do feel like it is a little easy to hit some things now, but I don't think that. Yeah, I think it feels like a fine-tuned thing here. I don't think there's a whole lot more to read into it. That they're trying to reduce how often and consistent this is. Everyone's focusing on the damage aspect, but this is also going to affect supports and tanks too. Right, reversion is trying to find the right balance. Correct, I'd agree with that. Now, I think most people's problem with Season 9 is more to do with the breakpoint changes with the health pools. Bethany, we have a problem. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to reserve judgment on this for people that are smarter than me at breaking down the ramifications of this. Yeah, I think the concept is exactly what Poopkip was saying earlier, where it's not just about reverting, it's about finding the balance, because I think the clearly the good thing that Season 9 did is introducing an additional health to toy with, which was 225 or 275, right? Because it allowed you to go 225, 200, 250, 275. Whereas before, it was 175 or 225 or 250. It basically introduced another health pool breakpoint that they could play with, which is really nice for balancing purposes. But yeah, I mean, obviously breakpoints are a bit of a mess. They've not been consistent at applying it all the way through. And it did feel a little easy to hit some shots now. So maybe this is going to change some of that. We'll see. I'm generally against Season 9, but I'm trying to find the positives in there as well. And I agree that generally the more positive approach or opinion about Season 9 was because of the meta, which was the most positive thing. Okay, so Doomfist here. The recent increase to Rocket Punch wall slam angle has added a lot of consistency and made Doomfist significantly more threatening. It was a big buff. To help account for this, we were pulling out some of the survivability from Seismic Slam. Shockwave reduced from 18 to 15 meters. Cooldown increase that's fine. Not a big deal. Sure, that's fine. My big thing with Hazard is I really liked him. I thought that maybe he was a little bit overtuned. Maybe his mitigation was a little bit overtuned. I did not enjoy. I felt like the melee was a little bit weak on the dash, and it didn't sound as visceral. And his primary fire didn't feel as visceral. I felt his ult and block was really strong. So let's take a look at Hazard. Also, maybe probably a lot of bug fixes and quality of life changes in here. The community feedback from Hazard's trial has been largely positive, despite underperforming slightly. We're adjusting his kit to increase the damage of his primary fire. Nice. Making Bone Spur more consistent and reliable tool for finishing off enemies. Spike Guard protection sometimes felt inconsistent to being used as from a third-person perspective. To address this, we've widened the forward blocking angle, providing Hazard with more reliable protection. Okay. Consistency of output is crucial here, right? So if the mitigation is still too strong, having consistent mitigation means that you're able to reduce the amount of potency. We've widened the forward blocking angle. Additionally, the damage of Spike Guard has been reduced to balance the increased bones per damage and the protection radius. That's fine. As long as there's still a significant reason to use Spike Guard for offensive purposes, I'm okay. I don't want this to be another ability that's only used for defensive purposes. It must find offensive purposes. It must. We've also strengthened the Jagged Wall to make it more impactful, while increasing the time required to re-trigger the knockback effect to minimize frustration from frequent knockbacks. Okay, let's find out. Thank you very much. Damage per spike increased, so this is a 0.75, which means it's about a 9%, more like a 12% somebody do the math for me. It's like a 12% damage increase, 13% damage increase. Each volley center projectile no longer has a random launch spread, now always launches straight. That's great to hear. The angle of protection provided sparker increase from 104 to 180. Okay, so flat across, it's 11%. Thank you. Damage per second reduced. Okay, this is not significant, so that's good. Post/recovery time from primary fire and quick melee increase from 0.3 seconds to 0.5 seconds. So this is a combo nerf. This is definitely a fairly significant nerf. Getting the combo was difficult and inconsistent, but when it did, it was very potent, which was the slash, primary fire, melee, whatever, fill in the blank, right? But this is pretty rough. So we're going to have to test this out in the practice range a little bit to see how it feels. This is significant. Health increase from 350 to 400. Sure. I'm pretty sure in the playtest it was 450. So knockback damage increased. Sure. That's nice. Damage interval from 1.5 seconds to 1.75. Okay, sure. Okay. These are all relatively small. The big ones was the combo nerf, the damage buff, and probably to a lesser extent the consistency of the mitigation and the knockback damage. So overall, probably net buffs for Hazard, I would say, certainly. Yeah, let's keep going. Mauga, base armor reduced, base health increased. Sure. I mean, I would say that the meter keeps bouncing back and forth, but we do have a Mauga that does actual damage with Slam and can actually run around a lot. So, and it is easier to set squishies on fire now. So, it's fine. It's better. He's better. Sure. Okay. Orisa. Although Orisa's effectiveness dropped off further than expected, the removal of the Fortify heat reduction has had positive effects on gameplay by making her ammo resource more meaningful. We're keeping that change while walking back some of the armor health loss. We also think her Terror Surge ultimately could be more effective, so it now pulls in enemies from a further distance, but the damage range has not changed, so it won't be harder to get out of the area. Clive Warren, thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Armor increased, base health reduced, pull radius increased. Whatever. Orisa, I'm at a point in time now where I just don't care about the Orisa changes. As long as she's not hard meta, I don't care. I don't care. Sure, she's woefully underperforming. We know that. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not saying it's a good change. They keep doing the thing back and forth. So, I don't care. I don't care. I will say this. I don't think it's going to matter that much because but it's one of those visibility things where it's like, I don't fully agree with Flats necessarily in the fact that, they keep buffing the horse, buffing the horse. Whatever, but at some point we're going to have to bite the bullet. I'm more optimistic about what they've been doing with Mauga over the last year than I am about Orisa. I feel like Mauga, we've actually made some progress. We've actually feel like, we've not really reworked the character enough, I think. I think we need to be a little bit more innovative, which I discussed that in my fix for last patch. But at least we're moving towards a more healthy playstate, and it shows, right? It's not perfect. It's still sucky, but it is noted. The playstyle is changing, like even at the pro level, a little bit. There is more. If you even watch the recent finals, right? There was a lot of Mauga Slam stuff. There was a lot of Mauga, much more than we've seen in Mauga metas before, because there was actual reward for the risk, right? But Orisa just hasn't really gone anywhere. If anything, Orisa's gotten worse because the damage reduction for Fortify and the movement speed with Fortify, yes, those were broken when Orisa was strong, but it was the only interesting thing that you could do. Now Orisa's just slow and bumbling, right? There isn't any new. They've removed nuance from this character instead of added. And this is exactly why this character will never be balanced if this is exactly what you do. So Orisa, I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent. I'm going to hope that I'm going to assume that they don't really have any plans for Orisa, which is why we're just kind of bouncing things back and forth, because these changes don't change anything. They don't change anything. I like playing Orisa more than I like playing Mauga, but Orisa has actually lost effectiveness in terms of her design, where Mauga has gained nuance with its design. And to me, that's something that feel kind of like, I guess they just don't have a plan with her at all. Ramattra now briefly interrupts horizontal momentum when first affecting a target. Interesting, that's a huge buff. Slowing field now ignores barriers for line of sight. Also pretty big buff. So we'll see. Winston's elite now has a higher maximum damage to better reward. Okay, sure, fine. That's a good buff for Winston. If you're going to buff anything with Winston, it's by far the most skillful and interesting aspect of his kit to buff. Sure. I feel like this change should have been done a long time ago. This was one of the big missing things from Season 9, that when health pools went up, Winston didn't gain anything about the ability to not having to aim. It doesn't gain anything from larger projectiles. So all the his alt fire still sucks because it's still falling behind. So this is fine. This is fine. Yeah, I agree with you, Michael Myers. I agree that the Roadhog rework isn't good, but it does show that they are at least looking for solutions, even if they failed. You know, I think you guys are overreacting a little bit. This is inoffensive. You know, this is not really going to change your game quality. Really, it's not going to change. By far the most important thing here. I mean, all of these are pretty small. Like, they're noticeable, but small, right? I mean, Hazard's release is going to be by far the most important thing. So to me, the reason I'm being more negative about it is I'm disappointed in the lack of vision. But this is not going to negatively affect your game. Might change the game quality. You're not going to notice 25 more armor, almost ever. So it's whatever. You know, like, the thing you guys need to be is, like, you need to be asking for better, but you shouldn't let this affect your enjoyment of the game. Let's keep going. Coach Gun cannot be activated while affected by mobility locking abilities, but won't move, Ash. Oh, that's kind of cool. Steel Trap, and I assume, what about Cage Fight? Maybe the same? That's cool. I like that. Farah, cooldown increased. I don't like these changes. What's the better change? Tell me. What's the better change for Jet Dash? Farah's overperforming with her horizontal movement. What's the change? Yes, thank you, Mocha. Reduce the distance. That's it. You reduce the distance. Right. I don't know exactly what the distance is, like 10 meters, something like that, but you reduce the distance instead. You do not increase the cooldown. Having things on cooldown for long periods of time, I'm with Samito on this one. Long cooldowns are generally not all that fun. I had that confirmed with all the Marvel Rivals time that I've put in. Long cooldowns, just boring, right? Yeah. So cooldown increased, not great. Not the end of the world. Not going to be a huge problem, but again, the purist in me is annoyed. Not saying that every cooldown has to be short. Of course, there's of course a balance, but I think with a short dash ability, your gameplay loop is going to you're going to want something that's more effective or more frequently available. Okay, Sojourn has received adjustments. Wow. Again here, I want to point something out here. Is Sojourn overperforming or underperforming? Yes. What is underperforming about Sojourn? Rail. At least the way Rail fits within her kit. I know. I've been saying this a lot, which means that I might lose some of my objectivity with it, but I really strongly believe the problem is the delay between Rail and primary fire. That's the problem. It's not, the damage was significant. It's not a one-shot, but we don't want it to be a one-shot. It should be an exclusively unique aspect of Sojourn to apply high hit scan burst damage alongside a projectile weapon. However, it punishes you because when you use the rail, if you don't finish the kill, you often cannot continue to allow the damage because of the delay between shooting. The recovery after shooting a rail, yes. There is no delay, I believe, between primary fire and rail. But the recovery is what kills you. And so now we're just moving it back to a one-shot. Not literally a one-shot, of course. But it is a big deal. I mean, this is a 30 damage, am I correct, chat? Headshot buff, 30 damage headshot buff. Now, I understand that my suggestion doesn't necessarily solve her ultimate, which is still tricky. You would have to consider more damage. I mean, my thought is that her ult might buff her rail damage, right? To not quite a one-shot maybe, but buff her rail damage, right? I could be open to that, right? But the recovery is brutal. The recovery is brutal, and this still doesn't change it. So, you know, I'm gonna die in that hill. I think Sojourn need help, but this is just missing it. So I'm disappointed. This patch so far. Well, let's not make any premature judgments here. Sure, biotic field reduction. I always felt this was stupid back in the day. I mean, having an 18-second cooldown was insane to me, but that's fine. Symmetra, base shield increased. Sure. Fine. That's whatever. Torbjorn, damage increased. Sure. I mean, Forge Hammer's fun. Build time reduced. That's good. I like that. I think it should have more be able to get it up, and because the problem with the build time is that it pretty much means that you have to set it up before the fight starts. Setting it up mid-fight, it just means it gets destroyed almost instantly. This helps that a little bit. I don't know that I would combine that with the health increase, but I do like the build time. Like we need to go ahead and move away from the fact that you need to hammer your turret. Does it even work anymore? But yeah, this is a good change. This is also a good change. I don't know about this one. We've also fixed a grievous oversight for moving to larger health pools and Torbjorn's forward hammer will strike fears into enemies once again. It's funny. It's another Season 9 reversion, right? It's good to see. About time. This is a mostly quality of life change that makes adventurers cooldown cycle more consistent as they tend to activate burrow while soaring through the air quite often. Cooldown rate is now faster anytime burrow is active rather than required to play the beginning underground. So if you're in the mid-air, the cooldown reduction is still working. That's good. Baptiste, cooldown reduced from 15 to 14 seconds. Radius increased from 10 to 12 meters. So, I get it. Without reworking this character, I get it. Bap is underperforming. Bap is definitely underperforming. I don't like Bap. This is the Mauga rule. I don't like Bap, but the buff is understandable. Come on, think about it. Think about it, guys. Come on. Activate your brain. Don't just see regenerate first. I hate sustain. I understand. I do too. But think about it. What does it do? What does it do? Come on, we gotta be better. We must be better. We gotta be better. What does it do? This doesn't affect BAP. What does it affect? No. Look carefully. Yes. It allows you to affect people that you're not directly stacked with. You can affect DPS now. 12 meters is a pretty big range increase. So you can actually contribute to things that you aren't directly on top of. This is what the character needs. Is this a good long-term solution to a character that has 2 AoE sustained cooldowns? No. But I get it. I understand if you don't like this. But we're always going to look at things from not just the immediate impact, but the ideas and the strategy behind it. Now, I don't know if that I would marry that to a cooldown reduction. Here, okay, you guys ready for this one? How about we reduce regenerative burst to 10 seconds and not have the healing, but reduce the healing even more. I think me and Samito actually we brainstormed and Yeetle, we brainstormed some changes with regenerative burst, like a targeted heal. I forget what else we did, like a targeted heal over time that can be used on yourself. There's a lot of things that we thought about with Baptiste, right? And all of them are going to demand some sort of a rework, right? But I don't love this change. I will give it a net neutral because I hate BAP, and I don't know that I would. I think that there's different ways, but at least there's some thought into this, I guess. But yeah, I get it. AoE sustained, boring. Buffing defensive cooldown for Baptiste, boring. This is why they took the recall off of his weapon, because the character is underperforming. And there's nothing about his kit that you can buff. That's not fun, So, yeah. All right, Brigitte. Wow. Okay. Sure. I still think Brig needs less burst heal on pack. A little bit less. But not a huge nerf, but sure. EDI, sure, that's fine. Lucio, sure.
This isn't terrible. The worst part is the DPS passive, which will demolish Brig.
I don't know if it will demolish Brig. 5% increase, even if it is an effective 25% increase. Very, very, very minor. Now falls faster when used midair. Sure. This is fine. This was always, I felt, fairly harsh. This is fine. So, yeah. Okay. I will give this patch a C. C for... not cataclysmic. Not creative. Changes nothing. Sure, maybe. I mean, I think it will change some things, but commonplace. We need an... They're just confusing. Yeah, it's not a bad one. Yeah. This patch is not, I don't think, going to have any major ramifications for how this season is going to go. There's a lot of exciting things that we can focus on this season. 66 Hazard, in theory, Overwatch Classic, Avatar, lots of cool things, but just meh. Really meh. A lot of problems that I don't like the way that they're going around solving them, which is my opinion. Of course, you guys make your own opinions. But man, just a lot of things that I feel like there's some good things here, like the jump pack damage and the Ashe quality of life change and the Soldier biotic field and some of Torb's changes and Venture's changes and, you know, some little things like the Lucio thing. It's fine. It's not a bad patch. Nothing super negative here. I think for me is that you guys know me. Like I am and will always be a purist that lets that purist affect my... Here's what I look for in patches, okay? I don't look for patches to only fix problems, right? I don't think there is any super big problem right now in the Overwatch meta. I think the meta is not too cringe. There's not really any wildly overperforming characters right now in all ranks. Maybe you could argue Juno is overperforming, yeah, but I've always have been of the opinion that characters like Juno will always overperform because they're popular. Widow might be affected by the DPS change. Just keep that in mind. And I don't actually know how much Widow is overperforming versus just how much she is visible. You get what I'm saying? And I know overbuff is not perfect, but we do have confirmation that it is a relatively accurate. And Widow right now, if we look at this here, is currently in all ranks in the last month at a 47.8% win rate behind Soldier 76, who is overperforming, right, guys? I mean, even in Grandmaster, right? Like, Widow is barely at a 50%. Like, Widow is like an average win rate. Grandmaster, she's underperforming in Masters. So I hate Widow with you guys, but my point being is that, like, there wasn't any egregiously obnoxious. My point, the reason why I'm giving this more of a mid review is not because that this is going to cause a really cringe, awful meta, at least on the surface. It doesn't solve any problems. We don't really go anywhere at all. Sojourn problems still aren't solved with the character. You know, Pharah, I feel like that's not the direction I like to go with Pharah. Ramattra is still Ramattra. Orisa is still Orisa. Doomfist still is still Doomfist. He's still a punch bot. Slam is still not functional in that aspect. And Bap is still Bap, you know, and I don't expect them to do all of those things. It's not going to affect the quality of games, likely. But I would love for every patch to have a small step in the right direction with at least one character or two characters or three characters, right? And I feel like the only person that I can say that about is some of the minor quality of life changes like Ashe, Winston, and Lucio or Venture. But there's no real problematic characters that are actually being improved. Orisa's the same. Ramatra's the same. Sojourn's the same. Baptiste is basically the same. So the big one to keep an eye out is what you guys are saying, which is the DPS passive and the projectile changes. Those are going to be the ones that might have some interesting, positive, potentially, ramifications. So we'll see. No, I will in a second. Okay, that is my thoughts. Final grade is C. Which means passing grade, not actively negative, not actively positive. It just is. And that to me is a bit... You get what I'm saying? A bit. Because I do have higher expectations.